Hello, this is some guy in Hawaii, and today I want to talk a little bit about 3D in movies. This is opposed to virtual reality or 3D in things like video games or theme park rides. I'm talking about 3D as a storytelling device in filmmaking, or more accurately, it not really being used as a storytelling device in filmmaking. Okay, I'm endeavoring here to explain why, with one exception, all traditional features presented in 3D only use 3D as a visual gimmick. Okay, and why I don't expect things to change. This is odd coming from a film person like me who has always loved motion and movement and speed in movies. Okay, I've always loved the roller coaster sensation when properly done. I saw Empire Strikes Back 10 times in the first 3 weeks of release. Don't judge me. Okay, I went to the Cinedome theaters in Sacramento and sat in the third or fourth row, smack dab in the middle, with my peripheral vision just cut off so I could experience the snow speeder sequences and the asteroid field sequences to full effect. I love that stuff. But I've never been that crazy about 3D, and public response throughout its history is mixed as well. And if we look at the recent history of 3D movies, Hollywood, for the most part, is starting to agree with me. Okay, 3D has been around in movies since at least the 50s. It was initially just a B movie gimmick. No major releases were ever done in 3D back then, to best of my knowledge. Okay, it popped up again in the early 90s when some new techniques promised better experience for filmmakers, theaters, and viewers alike, but it was still just a gimmick that quickly died. Okay, it wasn't until the late 2000s and the emergence of digital film technology that shooting and, more importantly, screening and viewing a high quality 3D film became relatively inexpensive and easy to do. Okay, now if we take a look here, this is a list of basically 3D films that have been released since at least 2005 here. Okay, go all the way up to 2022 where things have dropped off. But okay, see, now we're getting into what do you call pandemic territory. Even so, not all of these are features, by the way. Some of these are smaller films, short form films. But here, 2022 has a very short list. So if we look at this, uh, with the exception of many computer animated releases, the overwhelming majority of 3D releases are actually conversions of films shot in 2D. Okay, filmmakers learn how to use framing and editing to tell a story. They learn how to use sound when it first arrived. They learn how to use color as it became the norm. But no one has really done this with 3D, and I know of only one film that attempted it with mixed results, and there are a couple reasons for this. Okay, first off, 3D is not reality. Okay, it's hyper reality. It's an exaggeration. We do not experience objects in space around us like we do when we're watching a 3D film. Okay, movie viewing is primarily a passive experience. We see what the filmmaker wants us to see. We do not look around just anywhere as we might in a 3D video game or a theme park ride. Our view is confined to that rectangle right in front of us. Okay, the gimmick of 3D is to make 2D reality in that rectangle appear to intrude directly on our reality to jump out at us. Okay, that was the selling point of early 3D. It had nothing to do with storytelling. It was all gimmicky exaggeration. Okay, modern 3D films are more subtle. They emphasize the extra perceived dimensionality and tend to be less about objects hurled at the audience to provoke a reaction. Okay, but again, it's rarely for storytelling effect. It's not reality. It's exaggerated reality. Okay, that's not to say that narrative films in general present us with reality. Okay, far from it. I already mentioned how filmmakers use framing and editing and sound and color to tell a story, and they often use those tools specifically to distort reality and create an emotional experience. Okay, and with the exception of 2010's Tron Legacy, no one has really tried to do that with 3D. Okay, Tron Legacy opted to show all of its real-world scenes in 2D and its computer world sequences on the grid in 3D if you saw the 3D release. Okay, this was a deliberate creative choice to have the audience perceive the grid differently from the normal world, and it kind of worked, but it also kind of didn't because of what happens when anybody sees a 3D movie. Okay, for the first 5 or 10 minutes of a 3D movie, or whatever part of the movie is in 3 dimensions, we're basically in awe of what's going on. Okay, we're marveling at the 3D effect, and we're going, wow, look at that. Oh, that's cool. we're sensitive to that heightened three-dimensionality. Okay, but after 5 or 10 minutes, we get used to it. It becomes normal, and we don't think about it. It might have a subtle effect on us, but it's not really doing anything to us in terms of affecting our experience of the story. And it stays this way until one of two things happen. Number one, something happens in the movie that hits that wow factor again, usually in an action sequence, a lot of movement. And again, we're going, wow, that's really cool. Alternatively, something really distracting happens. Okay. A common occurrence is an object in the foreground coming into frame. In a 2D movie, foreground objects often remain out of focus. They provide a sense of distance and or depth. Sometimes they communicate the POV of someone watching the main subject. In any case, our focus remains on whatever the filmmaker wants us to concentrate on in the distance. It can serve a purpose without getting in the way. In a 3D movie, however, that out of focus yet dimensional foreground feature will draw our eye and distract us. It feels weird and sometimes annoying because it's not supposed to do that. Okay. And the problem with these two instances, both the wow factor and the annoyance distraction factor, is that when they happen, we are no longer watching the movie. Okay. We are no longer immersed in the story, and that's usually bad. Okay. Now, some will say that added dimensionality can still heighten the film viewing experience. The prime example 3D enthusiasts point to is Avatar, which was actually shot in 3D as well. Okay, and while I don't disagree, I still say that the added extra provided by seeing the film in 3D doesn't really add all that much. It doesn't change the viewing experience significantly, not enough to make the extra cost worth it, and certainly not from a storytelling standpoint. I saw Avatar in both 3D and 2D. 3D may add something to the experience of what is primarily an artificial computer-generated world. Some experiences, very subjective. I argue, however, that if we see the movie in 2D and never see it in 3D, we're not missing anything. We're still in the story the whole time, and we don't get any of those distractions, okay? And until somebody comes up with a way to really use 3D to enhance or expand the storytelling process, it's never going to be more than just a kind of a gimmick we can pay a little bit extra for maybe a little bit more of what we're already getting. Now, that's not to say that 3D is a complete waste. I can recall one film that actually benefited from the advantages of 3D while suffering few, if any, of the drawbacks, okay? The distraction factor, as it were, okay? It's a film in some ways tailor-made for 3D, even though it was made well before digital film advances made 3D filming and viewing easy. It was converted to 3D for special anniversary showings, okay? There's a little film from 1986 called Top Gun. Top Gun actually works as a 3D movie because the 3D effect is on full display and fully in full effect for the flying sequences. But when we're on the ground amidst all the interpersonal stuff and even the volleyball game, it doesn't get in the way. It's not even apparent as far as I can remember. Okay, we get the wow factor only when we expect it, the dogfighting, and it doesn't pull us out of the story because so much of those sequences is that wow of experiencing what few people in reality get to feel, what it's like to be in a high-speed fighter jet, okay? Then again, my Avatar argument applies equally here as well. It doesn't add to the story. If you never get to see Top Gun in 3D, you're not missing much, okay? Top Gun Maverick, the longer-awaited sequel, just released over a week ago, and it's not being released in 3D. And it was directed by Joseph Kosinski, who also directed Tron Legacy. Okay, so Tom Cruise and Kosinski and the rest of the creatives went to great lengths to get Paramount to release the film exclusively in theaters, okay, vice going straight to streaming during the height of the pandemic, okay, to preserve the experience of seeing it on a big screen with a theater audience. And having seen it twice, once in IMAX, I can attest to that. See it at the biggest, best theater you can find. But no 3D, okay? Paramount hasn't released a 3D film since 2019. If Cruise and Kosinski had insisted on 3D, I'm pretty sure Paramount would have made an exception and done the conversion. They've had 2 years. But that didn't happen, and that's telling, okay? Avatar, The Way of Water, releases in December of this year, including in 3D, as well as the sequel in 2024. I plan on seeing it in 2D first, and then again in 3D, just to see if anything has changed, but I doubt it, okay? I don't expect it to change my opinion of 3D as a storytelling tool. Now, some of you may not care. Some of you will still prefer 3D to 2D if available. Paying for and enjoying a 3D movie boils down to whatever you subjectively want from the experience. If you view a movie like Avatar as more of a very long theme park ride, spend the money. Enjoy the experience. If not, you may just want to stick to 2D most of the time, like me. And that's it. If you like this kind of content, you want to see more, consider commenting, liking, or subscribing. And as always, stay safe, and thanks for watching.